Welcome to the Unblock Your Business podcast. I'm Abby Rogers, success coach, business coach, and hypnotherapist, and I help high achievers and business leaders master their subconscious habits for success, income goals, and above all, happiness. But success isn't just about mindset or strategy. It's about combining both and sealing the deal with a big dose of subconscious alignment, because our subconscious holds the true key to unlocking our potential. Let's dive in and look at how you can show up bigger, better, and more uniquely aligned in life and business today. Hi there, welcome to the first edition of Unblock Your Business for 2022. Excited to have you with me today. I hope you've had a great new year, and I hope that you don't have too sore a head and have had plenty of time to sleep things off if you did. So today's episode, I am speaking with the wonderful Rushana Khusainova, who is a sales researcher and lecturer turned business and money coach. Rushana has done some award-winning research on salesperson motivation. So this is really her area of expertise. So we're going to dive really deep today into effective sales strategies to help you sell with confidence and feel motivated and comfortable selling, so that you can sell with integrity and actually enjoy selling as part of your business. So without further ado, let's dive in, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. I think you're going to pick up lots of wonderful nuggets and techniques to help you manage those sales conversations even better. Wonderful. So welcome back to the podcast. And today I am delighted I've got Rushana Khusainova joining us. Hi, Rushana. It's great to have you here. Could you just tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how you've come to do what you do in the world of entrepreneurship?
Hi, Abby. Thank you so much for having me. It's lovely. So I was always entrepreneurial, and it's just something that interested me. And my grandmother actually was also entrepreneurial, but back in the day, so I'm coming from Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, in the USSR times, there was no such thing. You couldn't just start a business.
No.
Yes. So, but I think I picked up a lot of that entrepreneurial vibe from her. And last year, I did my coaching qualification at my workplace. So I'm lecturing in marketing at Aston University in Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
And as part of the culture, they're really encouraging and promoting coaching,
Mm-hmm.
which is fantastic. So I did my qualification, and I've received a lot of positive feedback. And then I thought, that's it. That's my calling.
Oh, wow.
Coaching people. And it was fantastic. At the same time, though, I started working on my money mindset. And that's the whole journey itself, isn't it? So these two things combined together, and I thought, well, that's it. That's probably what I should concentrate on.
Mm-hmm.
So I started my business last year, and it's been very developmental.
Yeah.
Yes, both for me as an individual and also for me as a lecturer,
Mm-hmm.
because I've realized all the examples and theories that all of a sudden came to life with a different new vision for me.
Mm-hmm.
So that in a way made me also a better lecturer and better teacher. Fantastic.
Yeah, that experience really fed into everything that you'd been doing on paper, as it were. Wonderful.
Absolutely. And it's really interesting to see that all the research that I'm familiar with, and I published a couple of papers myself, bringing this into the world of business and entrepreneurship. So instead of saying, for example, well, you should be doing this, well, where does that come from? Well, I can say, actually, research suggests, that this evidence-based approach suggests, and that does give and add a bit of substance to the advice and to the conversation.
Definitely, because there's so much speculation and conjecture and so many people just giving you so many different opinions out there in the online entrepreneurial space. So it's really quite nice to have somebody who's got some facts and figures at their fingertips to say, we know this works, and we've sampled it, we've studied it, we've tried and tested it, and we know there's good evidence that this works. So we're delighted to have you here today to talk about that. It's really exciting. So you are literally an expert in sales and marketing, and not just a marketer who's learned a few things along the way, but actually somebody with a real qualification, real scientific grounding in this. Tell us a little bit more about the sort of work you do and how that's influenced what you do in your business now.
Yes, so my research as a PhD research that I did at university is on salesperson motivation. And for years, so PhD journeys are 3 years long usually. I had my twins after second year, so it took me 5 years to complete.
Oh, wow.
It was
lady that likes to take everything on.
So and for years I've been saying, oh yeah, I'm not in sales just context, so I'm a motivation researcher. So I've been kind of pushing the sales bit away for many years. And until at some point when I started working on the money mindset, on my own money mindset really, and all these issues around that, I've had a session with an art therapist. And I've discovered that actually it's probably my calling. So I should stop pushing the sales part away. Because instead of trying to say, oh yeah, I'm not doing sales, I'm only doing this motivation, more dignified research, more respectable research. I should stop pushing that. And I realized there is even a connection to my grandmother, who was very entrepreneurial, but who couldn't really, start up a thing of her own.
Yeah.
I really felt that support. I mean, my grandmother passed away many years ago now. But yeah, I've realized that. So I stopped pushing the sales part away. And instead, I decided that I will try to do it the right way. I will teach my students to do it the right way, with integrity, with ethics being, ingrained in all aspects of sales. And I will, try to normalize talking about sales, and it's absolutely fine.
Yeah, wonderful. We're all for that.
Absolutely. And there's so many times I've heard entrepreneurs say something like, well, I love everything about my business apart from sales.
Yeah.
But, if you're in business, you're in business of sales.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think was it that shifted that mindset for you? Because obviously there was a little bit of not wanting to go there with sales yourself for quite a while, and then embracing that. How do you think that shifted for you?
Abby, there wasn't just one moment where it all came together. It was just a journey. So there's this discovery that I made with during the art therapy session. Then there's also discussions with my mentor at work about, the right way of contribution to society through teaching students the right way of sales, the ethical way with integrity. There was that, and my work on my own money mindset, because obviously sales directly linked with pitching your services, asking for money, receiving the money, and being happy about that and comfortable with that. So it was a journey of all things coming together.
Yeah, sales is just such a word with huge connotations, isn't it? We imagine it to be this kind of dirty, icky, cringy thing that we don't want to approach, but actually it doesn't have to be that way at all. And both of us doing work around this with money mindset stuff. Once you start to look at it in a different way, everything changes. But it's arriving at that point that can be really tricky sometimes. Do you have any tips for anybody who might want to think about sort of approaching that and reframing their own mindset?
Absolutely. So I agree with you. Sales is seen as necessary evil, right? Well, I would say something that helped me is something I've heard from Nick Pigeon, who is a positive psychology coach.
Yeah.
And then she said, well, if you truly believe in the value you add to your clients, you really, believe that you're doing a great job in helping them, and you see client results, then you absolutely must believe that it's your duty to sell.
Yes.
So just shifting that mindset from thinking, oh, I'm pitching myself, I'm trying to push clients to sign up.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking that, think about it as it's your absolute duty to help your clients, and you do that by selling your offer.
Yeah.
And it really came to life for me just recently. So we moved to Portishead in Bristol, a new city, and I was searching for a new fitness studio or yoga studio. And I found this wonderful place. I bought there like a trial package for 10 sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And after that ended, there was no follow-up. There was no email to say, well, now you've tried it, see how amazing we are, sign up for this membership, or just, pay as you go. Or they do send newsletters.
Yeah.
But there wasn't anything. So I went onto the webpage and thought, okay, I'm going to carry on being organized, doing yoga for my self-care.
Mm-hmm.
But they were asking, there was like a multiple stage registration thing to pay for the package.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, okay, I hope there's a PayPal link, which wasn't there.
Uh-huh.
But I went through the process 2 or 3 times. And then each time I was distracted. So I still haven't signed up.
Okay, yeah.
And I thought, wow, obviously doing yoga is so important to my well-being and physical well-being, and it's just really good. So I thought it's their duty to really reach out to me and make me buy their product.
Yeah,
and I thought
putting barriers in the way, isn't it?
Absolutely, remove all the barriers, and it's their duty to sell it to me, to make sure that I stay healthy and feel good. And I think it just illustrates the point brilliantly with whatever the service is, coaching packages, mentoring, or other well-being services that you offer. It's your duty to sell, because it's your duty to help your clients to feel better or to transform.
Yeah, I love that. It's I think we often think of selling as coercing people or pushing something on somebody that they don't really want or need, and we have this kind of whole that feels really out of integrity and really awful. But actually, when you're offering something that is absolutely what somebody needs and it's going to transform their life, it's completely different. There is no persuasion, there is no coercion needed. It's just you are almost depriving them by not putting that thing out there, aren't you? So,
Absolutely. And so just shifting that mentality, and then obviously knowing that you are solving your client's problem.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think's most overlooked and most misunderstood when it comes to successful sales? What would you say?
So I think there are a few things. So first thing is probably having clear call to action. So a lot of business owners, especially at the start of their journey, they would put all this amazing content out there, but they would never try to sell it.
Yeah.
So from client's point of view, I'm looking at all this amazing content, value they're adding through their free content. But what do I do then? How do I then engage and take that next step further? That's one thing. And it comes sometimes from the fear of, being seen as too pushy or too salesy, which again is a mindset thing. But it's about finding the right balance, right?
Yeah.
So the second thing is a follow-up. And I have some research, some statistics are coming this way.
Ooh, go for it. We love a statistic.
Yeah, I thought that was fascinating. So apparently only 48%, so just less than half of salespeople would go beyond one follow-up. And we're all busy, we have things happening, we have jobs, other duties, family responsibilities, etc., etc. So, and if I just miss that one follow-up, then even if I wanted to take this opportunity to buy this product or service, if there is no second follow-up, I will get distracted.
Yeah.
And so by, everyone, again, we don't want to be seen as too pushy or too coercive or persuasive, as you just mentioned. But we do need to go beyond just one email or one call. Well, research says that it takes about 4 or 5 follow-up calls or emails to close a sale on average. And it could be too much for some people or too little for others, but that's the average statistic. So doing that follow-up and scheduling it in is crucially important and so often is overlooked. And the final part is mindset, is what you and I were both familiar with. And I was on this journey myself. So first time when I had to not announce, but close the sale and say, this is the next step, I had my hands were shaking. It was such a massive thing to ask for money, to announce the pricing. And so then just shut up. Because the nerves get on the way and you feel like you have to fill the silences and keep talking. So that mindset shift is just allowing yourself to receive the money and be content with that. And then just relax and stay back to give the prospective client, a moment, an opportunity to say yes, or to ask other further questions.
That's it, because if we carry on chatting and trying to fill that silence, they can't think, and they're trying to process what you're saying as well as trying to process this big decision, big important thing. And we're rubbish at multitasking. We might think we can, but we don't multitask, especially when it comes to big decisions. So we're again doing them a disservice if we don't give them that space, I guess.
Absolutely. And it's very interesting. That actually brings me to something else I wanted to share. Well, research says that number one skill in sales is actually listening. It's not talking, it's not being persuasive or providing amazing calls to action. It's listening. I think this is just amazing. I always ask my students what they think would be the number one skill for salespeople. And almost never get it right.
Yeah, because there's nothing worse than somebody not listening and then offering you a solution that just doesn't fit with you, as there have certainly had that in the past. And they've been like, well, it's your fault. You don't want to invest in this thing because you're clearly not ready to move on with your journey. And I'm thinking, no, it's because you've not listened and this isn't actually right for me. It's such a different thing. So yeah, I can totally see that. I work with a lot of people, as I'm sure you do as well, who are very afraid of selling or have a real kind of negative beliefs around what it means to sell. We do lots of work around shifting that mindset into a more positive place. What would you say to those people? How would you help them shift? I know we talked about the value side of things earlier. Is there anything else that kind of comes to mind on that?
So as we discussed, so that mindset shift about the fact that it's your duty to sell. That's one thing. Second thing is just looking, maybe trying to do a bit of self-analysis. What is it that makes you feel icky about sales or stop you from putting yourself out there a bit more, or putting these calls to action on social media or whatever the websites, channels you have? What is it? Is it the fact that you don't feel you're worth it? You have to justify the pricing, or maybe you feel that you're not ready yet. So just looking at your own self-belief, and we all carry, money narratives and limiting beliefs, right? So just questioning that, and sometimes just surfacing those beliefs is a first step to letting them go.
Yeah, totally.
And especially when it comes to pricing. So pricing is just one piece of marketing, along with promotion, product, people, etc. But when it comes to pricing, we often feel really uncomfortable, because that perhaps we feel like we are not deserving to be paid this amount of money. Or maybe we have a belief that, well, how can I charge £100 for a session when my mum has to work a whole week, or had to work one full week really hard to receive this money? All these limiting beliefs will really stop us from going full on, being and feeling comfortable with sales.
Totally. Yeah, really, really important to clear through those. So we were talking a little bit earlier about sort of getting those call to actions out there and doing that maybe repeated times, feeling okay with getting in touch with prospects over and over again. How do you think people can reframe that and see that as a valuable thing? I guess just having that statistic there really helps, actually, doesn't it? Just knowing that only 48% was it.
Absolutely. So I think it's very much a numbers game. So not seeing a silence or a no as a failure. I've heard someone said once, in business, there's no wins and failures, there are wins and lessons. And then, so it's one thing. And second thing, it's just numbers game. So if you know your numbers, if you know the conversion rates, average industry conversion rates, for example, if you know that only maybe 6% of those in your group will say yes, they're interested, and then out of them, perhaps 20% will actually go ahead and sign up to a service. Then the 80 will say no. And normalizing this will actually help you deal with that. Because if you receive rejection after rejection, it really triggers our evolutionary brain to feel really insecure. Because in the past, if you rejected, you sent, I mean, I'm talking about millions of years ago, caveman. So if you rejected, you sent away from the tribe, and you're almost sentenced to death, right?
Certain death.
Yes, absolutely. So, and our evolutionary brain is really, that's the reason why our evolutionary brain takes it really seriously. And we dislike rejections and take them really badly. So, but again, surfacing that and understanding that it's just numbers game, it's not a big deal. And it's not a rejection or reflection of me as a person or my skills and my offering. It's just what the numbers are. I had one colleague who is a serial entrepreneur shared this once, that he started his business and was in gardening, and he decided to boost his price up from £20 an hour to £25 an hour. And then the first person he announced the pricing to said, "Ooh, that's too expensive." Got really scared and put the price back down to £20. And for the whole year, he stayed at that £20 an hour. But then he said, well, it's actually, if you think about it, there's this, the game we have in a jar, red balls and black balls, 50 of each. But if you mix them up and then start taking one by one, it could be that you will have 3 black balls in a row. It's not a reflection of the jar, because in the jar we have 50 red balls and 50 black balls. Again, that's just understanding that it happened that there were just 3 black balls in a row, but then the red balls are out there as well. So it happens again, understanding that this one customer can say, well, no, I'm not interested, or you're too expensive. Well, maybe they're not your ideal customer, and it's understanding that the right client will come soon.
Exactly. And trusting that, again, just because we view and value money in a certain way, there are billions of people out there in the world with billions of different experiences and expectations for what things will cost, and just remembering that and saying, well, okay, this one didn't land this time, but there's bound to be somebody out there for who this fits, because there's a perfect price point for everybody, for every service, isn't there?
Absolutely.
There are super expensive watches and super cheap watches, and there's a market for all of them. It's just finding that right person. Fantastic. So could you talk us through the sales cycle, sort of based on your expertise? What do you think are the essential steps? What really has to be in place to make that successful sale?
Yes, sure. So the way I teach sales is based on the work of Professor Marshall and Professor Johnston. And it starts with the first step, understanding your clients. So understanding buyers, it's called, but obviously in this context, understanding your client base and your ideal client. So listening comes obviously into force here. Listening isn't just obviously listening to what they say. It's listening to what they say on social media, in networking events, other kinds of spaces that they attend. Putting their needs and problems in the center of what you do, of all your marketing communications. So that's the first step. Second step is prospecting. So that is putting yourself out there, getting leads in, creating and implementing the funnel where you have some sort of freebie online, and they sign up to receive it, and then they sign up to receive your newsletters later. An interesting point here is, do ask for these referrals from your existing clients. Because you might think that's obvious, right? So if they are happy with your service, they will be talking about it and recommending you to everyone. But we're all really busy people. I mean, life is, there's a lot to life, right? So if you don't ask, people may not actually think about it. So do ask for those referrals from your existing clients, because they will be your best advocates, really.
Absolutely.
So yes, that's step 2. Step 3 is your preparation and planning for that chemistry call, or that discovery call, or whatever you want to call it. So think about the technological part. If the call is happening on Zoom, think about the resources. Do they have all the information that they need to then have a chat with you? And think through the planning. So what you're going to talk about exactly in the call. Then the actual call itself, or communicating the sales message. So it's really be clear, listen and talk. So find the right balance, and then make sure there is call to action at the end. We have a specific date, specific action, whether it's you doing the follow-up on a specific timeline, or if you feel like they're ready, so trying to maybe propose that they make some sort of move. So there must be firm call to action. It's interesting that the next step is negotiating for win-win solutions. However, if you've done all the right things in the previous steps, then there will be pretty much no negotiation. There could be some negotiations about the time frame, or maybe added bonuses, or could be a price. But it's fine to say no, because if you feel like the client sees the potential and they're the right fit, you're fine to say no. Or if you want to give that discount, if you're starting out and you can see the benefit, the value in this partnership, then you can say yes as well. But that step, it doesn't have to be there, something in the contemporary situations. And the final step is closing the sale and providing the follow-up. And closing the sale, it doesn't always mean, that's it, you sign the contract right away. But that you're closer to closing the deal, and exactly what next steps are going to happen. What those next steps are there. You discussed all the details, and you're bringing the conversation to a close. So these are the 6-step formula of how sales usually operate, pretty much.
So in terms of, it's interesting you mentioned about discounting there as part of a perfectly legitimate strategy, because very often I think there's a lot of mindset out there around, never discount, never be seen to lower your prices, and so on. As you mentioned, as part of a well thought out strategy, it can be a really useful tactic, especially earlier in your business. It's just, I think, doing that with your head in the game, isn't it? So maybe almost planning that in before you get on that call, so that you've done it from a place of rationale and reason, and you've really thought about it intellectually, rather than doing it as a panic thing in the moment, which I know a lot of people do when they're not feeling completely confident in their money mindset.
Absolutely. So doing it with intention I 100% agree with that. It's really important. What I wanted to share here is, before I started my business, and it's one of the lessons, I guess, I've listened to a lot of audiobooks, some podcasts, I've read some books as well. And a lot of successful entrepreneurs, they actually say, well, when I started out, I did a lot of work for free. I, would offer a 1-hour coaching session, for example, and that would last for almost 2 hours, because I really wanted to deliver that value. And I had no boundaries. So it's important for you to have the boundaries, to know your value, and to not do any work for free. And that kind of is on board a bit more than I should have, perhaps, because when you're just starting out, of course, it's fine to do some work for free. You must be intentional about it, and you must realize, okay, so I will do, for example, 10 coaching sessions or therapy sessions or whatever, maybe in exchange for a testimonial, while I'm building up my portfolio, my reputation. So be intentional about it. But it's fine to do it for free. It doesn't mean that you don't have boundaries, healthy boundaries. It just means that sometimes, sort of in the very early stages of your business, that's what it takes. And maybe not being upset about it. Oh, I'm doing all this work for free. It's not really for free. It's not directly paid at that early stages. but you receive testimonials, and hopefully you can ask for more referrals.
Absolutely. It's a different kind of value exchange, isn't it? You're still spreading the word about your services, you're getting yourself known, and it's accepting that that's the value instead of a financial reward. Different story if you could be charging for it later on and you've got plenty of clients coming at you, but you don't see the value in your service. That's quite different. But yeah, that's such a good point.
So yes, once you have built up some experience, you have a couple of testimonials, then you absolutely must start charging, because as they say, if business is not making money, it's a hobby as opposed to business, right?
Yeah.
And that also does add a bit of pressure. Like, for example, you see so many stories of people, starting their business yesterday and today making the 10K months, or being fully booked out and fully sold out their courses and memberships, etc. But in reality, that's not how it works, unless you're exceptionally lucky. In reality, it does take time, and just taking that pressure off ourselves and to say, well, for me, it may take a bit longer than just 1 month doing stuff online.
Yeah, totally. Don't set your benchmarks by anything easy on social media by anybody else. Just do you focus on progress rather than achieving what everybody else has apparently achieved, because you never quite know, do you?
I love this. Yes, focus on progress and seeing that progress, and most importantly, acknowledging it, and giving yourself a little pat on the back, as opposed to just feeling guilty for not making those 10K months. And I'm not even sure why it's a thing. It's a trend, or 10K months.
And become the narrative, hasn't it? It's become the benchmark. But
exactly.
Yeah. Really do your own thing, definitely. Cool. So I use lots of content marketing, lots of attraction-based marketing in my business, and I found that works really well for me. And psychologically speaking, it feels good too, and I feel that really helps. By the time we get to that sales call, people understand what I do so well, and they like what I do and trust me to do it, that there's almost no negotiation. It's not a difficult sales call. It's just like, yes, please, when do we start? How much is it? What are the details? And let's get signed up, which is wonderful. But I've certainly been at the other end of that and had some very awkward sales calls in the past as well. Do you feel like attraction-based marketing, content marketing is a good strategy for most entrepreneurs? Does it fall short in any way? Would you recommend anything different?
No, I absolutely agree. I think that's the way forward. And so one thing, I was teaching on a program called Help to Grow at Aston University. And it's a government-funded program to help businesses really grow and develop. If, for example, they feel like they hit the ceiling in their income or operations, etc. Anyway, and so I was talking to one of the businesses, and she said, well, I don't really do any calls to action or really strong salesy messages, because that appears desperate. Instead, what I do is a lot of reputation building and profile building by sharing helpful insights and sharing some results that my clients achieved. And she said she's fully booked. She's oversubscribed.
Wow, nice.
Absolutely. And that made me think really about how salesy do we appear in a way. And salesy in the quotation marks. It's about, again, finding the right balance so that you have those calls to action, well written, appearing regularly, yet at the same time you do not appear what's the word I'm looking for, desperate in a way, that you're just trying to sell.
Yeah.
And I've just recently read a book. I'm still listening to an audiobook called Oversubscribed.
I'm reading that too.
Nice. That's quite interesting, isn't it? That's what he's talking about. So do bring value, share things for free, and then also just talk about these events that you attend and organize, and how high profile they are, and things like that. So that's really interesting. So I think this attraction-based marketing is exactly the way forward. And again, finding the right balance for your own business is also very important, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you've got to be able to show up consistently and in a way that feels is really in integrity, and just allows you to put out those calls to action without feeling desperate as well, like you really feel like you've got something great and you want people to know about it. And I think that comes across very differently to that desperate, I must get a client in the door kind of message, doesn't it? Whether we intend it to or not, it just has a very different ring to it.
Interesting thing I want to add here, Abby, is about cold calling. So at university, obviously, we teach that cold calling is a thing of the past and you just do not do it.
Okay.
And just recently, I was talking to an entrepreneurial friend, and she said, well, cold calling is absolutely a thing of the present. What's changed is not that you call someone and try to sell them something. Instead, you call someone. It could be on the phone, it could be using maybe LinkedIn or some other social media, and try to introduce yourself, to build that relationship. So you never try to sell someone your product or service using cold calling technique.
Yeah.
And then I thought, this is interesting. Could be industry specific. And another thing is, it's also, we're all so overloaded with social media and information coming from the internet. There's so much out there that our attention spans get shorter and shorter. And we filter out more and more of information coming our way. So in this crowded digital space, a lot of people would pay so much more attention to a real life, offline call to action or offering, or even cold call. Again, cold call not to buy, but to connect. And then I thought, that's really interesting. So one of the colleagues said, well, what I do, I just send out, you target some clients and send them a Christmas card or a birthday card, asking them to connect with you, or grab a coffee with you. And because, especially in the last couple of years, we've been deprived of that human connection, that offline offering of just grabbing a coffee with another human being, and resonate so much more than doing stuff online. Again, that's industry specific, and it's finding the right balance that works for you. But I thought this is fresh and interesting, isn't it?
It's, I guess it's just a different form of networking, isn't it? And you can do that networking kind of directly on social media or in person or wherever it might be, or reaching out and having those chats is just kind of another form of networking. Whereas cold calling, it's something I had always shied away from in terms of it feeling kind of a bit cringy. And still nowadays on LinkedIn and on Facebook, I see so many people getting this wrong, like just spamming your inbox with stuff and like, join my group or do this or do that. And it's just, no, it just doesn't feel good at all. So it's very different to reaching out and just asking somebody to a coffee or just finding out about them. And I think people are much more receptive to that, as you say.
Yes, absolutely. So maybe it's a new way, and it could be industry specific.
It's finding that thing that works for you, isn't it, again?
Absolutely.
So very last question, one I always love to ask my guests, which is, what would you tell your startup self if you could go back now to the very beginning of your business? What would you do maybe differently?
Really good question. So I reflected on this a little bit. What would I do differently? I would just take that pressure off myself, to be honest. Something that we touched upon just earlier today, that I have to really, achieve those 10K or 5K months or whatever it is. And another pressure that I have put on myself. So I teach marketing and sales. I have a PhD in sales motivation. So I should really know all this stuff, right?
Easier to say than to do.
Absolutely. And then I came across this metaphor, which said a hairdresser will not do a great job at cutting their own hair. And then it hit me. I thought, this is brilliant. Why was I so hard on myself, thinking I should be perfect in marketing and sales and mindset, because that's what I teach, right?
Yeah.
And the moment I just took that pressure off myself, I found myself a business mentor who helped me with, building the marketing and strategy for the business. The moment I've done that, I take all this pressure off myself.
Yeah.
It started feeling so much better, so much more productive and fruitful.
Yeah.
And I think all these pressures we put on ourselves, looking at the success stories on social media, aren't just, they're not very helpful. They could be a bit inspiring and motivational at times.
Yeah, fine line, isn't it?
Absolutely, I agree. Yes. And the second thing is, I've you go to business groups on Facebook and LinkedIn, etc., and a lot of thought leaders and business mentors, I would say, well, you have to work like 80-hour weeks for the first year of your business. That's what it takes.
Yeah.
And then it took me some time to actually digest this, with a lot of resistance inside. I have my part-time lecturing job, which I love. I have, family and kids, and I'm advocate for a 4-day work week.
Yeah.
I realized that it may sound, lazy, but it's not. In fact, that's just my priorities.
Yeah.
And I'm not intended to put in 80 hours a week to work on my business. And I made peace with the fact that it will just be a slower process.
Yeah. Yeah.
And 80 hours work weeks, they're just not for everyone. We have other priorities, other commitments. As long as we realize this is my choice and my priority, and I'm intentional about it.
Totally. And I really question whether you can be focused and productive and really on it for 80 hours a week even as well. I think to a large extent, actually having that time out doing other things is essential, because it just allows your brain to process stuff that you're not even consciously aware of, and it just helps you so much with the productivity side of things. So yeah, I think good decision. Take the pressure off and do things your way.
Absolutely. And the final thing is, it don't need to be perfect, and it's giving yourself permission to be good is good enough.
Yeah.
And when I was writing my doctoral dissertation, it's a lot of work, a lot of words, and a lot of analysis. So it's a hard work, right? And I remember one of my supervisors, I had 4 PhD supervisors, and one of the professors said, Rushana, finished is better than perfect. So just finish off the thing.
Yeah.
And then I just, I took one day a marker pen and wrote it on my whiteboard in the office at the university. And I didn't realize it was actually a permanent marker pen. And it just stayed there forever. I tried to take it off, but it was, unsuccessful.
It's meant to be.
Exactly. So I thought it's a beautiful reminder that we don't need to try and be perfect, especially if you're just starting out. Just put yourself out there, and good is good enough.
100%. Love all of that. Some wonderful tips and insights there. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been really fascinating, and I have no doubt that's going to be super helpful to so many of our listeners. So thank you ever so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to Rushana for joining us there. That was really great to just chat around the sales process and money mindset and all of those things that can feel like such big barriers. So I hope you got lots out of that. If you want to check out more about Rushana, then take a look at the show notes and you can find all her details there. I'll be back next week, and I look forward to seeing you. Have a great first week of the new year. Take care. Thanks for listening. I really hope you've enjoyed today's episode. If you have, it would be incredible if you could pop a review on iTunes, Google, Spotify, or your favourite podcast platform. And if you want to dive deeper, you can find me in my Facebook group Unblock Your Business, or at www.unblockyourbusiness.com.